Hi, I'm Brooke. Welcome to my channel. Today, let's talk about QHHT and Kundalini energy. I don't think those two always go together, but I had a QHHT session a few years ago, and after the session, I had another round of Kundalini energy come through my body. I will put a link to my original Kundalini experience and video in the description in case you haven't seen that before. And here we go. First, I'm going to tell you a bit about me. I am a fine art photographer. I am in my art gallery in Manhattan Beach, California. These are some of my pieces behind me. And my artwork is very focused on being in the moment, day to day, simple pleasures. These are obviously some surfing ocean shots. I'm by the beach and just really vibrant, beautiful colors and textures. So if you're into that kind of thing, then I'm also going to put a link to that in the description, link to my website and my Instagram, so you can check out more of my art if you would like to see it. Okay, so a few years ago, I think like 2 years, I had a QHHT session. And if you don't, I mean, I'm assuming you know if you've come to this video, but just in case, there was a woman named Dolores Cannon who put people under hypnosis and found that when she put them in a very deep state of hypnosis, she called it a somnambulistic state. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She said, when she put them in that state, a lot of people would remember past lives and other things. So 2 years ago, I found videos on YouTube and started listening, and it sounded really cool. And so I decided to book a session. So, if you are interested in like I've said in other videos, like I just like to share these things because I feel like it helps just open up the collective consciousness. And so for me, before I did the session, like I really wanted to do it. I was really curious, but also I was really nervous. And I'm actually going to have another session in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about because I feel like I'm much more ready. But if you're thinking about having a session or you haven't, or you have one coming up, I feel like it's good to listen. I wish I had listened to someone like a random regular person who had had one because I think it would have been more prepared. So I'll give you like the highlights that I think are relevant. There's obviously personal information. It's probably not that interesting, but I'll give you like general highlights and a few things that came through for me that I think are like generally relevant to people as well. So the session, basically you go in with the intention of asking yourself question, like your higher mind. That's essentially what you're supposedly talking to. Is You could call it your higher self, your soul. I think Dolores Cannon called it the subconscious, whatever you want to call it, the part of you that has all the answers. So you go in with questions that you want answers to, and the answers are coming from you. And so in the session, so first it's like 5 hours or 4 hours. And so I went in, and at first the practitioner and she said, like, let's just talk. She's like, you need to get to know my voice so you can feel comfortable. And let's talk about the things that you brought in to ask. So we went over the questions that I had, and she was very nice. I felt very comfortable with her. And maybe about like half an hour of talking to her, all of a sudden, so I had been sitting in her office feeling normal. All of a sudden, I became freezing, like shivering. My body was like shivering. I had brought a sweatshirt with me. It was summer, so I had like a tank top on. And all of a sudden, I was like fumbling for my sweatshirt. I was like so cold. And she was like, "Oh, it's time to start." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's how I know that it's time." She said either the person will start yawning like uncontrollably or shiver, like become really cold. I was like, okay. So that I thought was really interesting. B, so in my mind, I really wanted to do it, but I was definitely afraid of like being under hypnosis and like what was going to happen and would it be weird and what I remember. So my experience was I was very much aware of everything that was happening. So nothing weird happened. So you don't have to be afraid. I mean, I don't know if every practitioner is different, but it sounded like there's like a standard practice, and that if you listen to like Dolores Cannon, like old stuff, people are really like out. But the energy has shifted or the process has shifted or whatever, to the point where now it's not like that. Like you really, I don't think you go like so under that you lose all awareness. At least that's what this woman told me. So but I didn't really realize that until after the session. So anyway, so I get really cold and she goes, oh good, it's time. So she had me like lie down in this, it's like a lazy boy, but like laid out flat. And I was under a lot of blankets because I was freezing. Um, and then what she did was she she had me picture myself in like my happy place, like wherever I like to hang out, which is actually on the beach. And so I was on where I like to sit. So I'm in Manhattan Beach and I like to go often like just sort of next to the pier. And so I pictured myself in that spot, feet in the sand, ocean, pier. That's what I used to, as she began to put me into a trance, right? And she, like, I don't remember the phrasing or whatever, but there's like a thing that she says, you know, to get you sort of in the trance state as you are picturing yourself in this relaxing place. So I'm in my relaxing place. She says whatever she says. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm in a trance. And she asks, you know, where are you? Tell me. And this is what I think is really interesting. This was probably, I didn't remember some kind of past life. I think at that point, a lot of people end up like in a past life or something. That didn't happen to me, but what did happen, I think was really interesting, like in a very, for me personally and in a general way. So I was in the same place by the pier on the beach, except it was like lifeless. So my beach is like color and movement and ocean smells and breeze, you know, it's like a lot of life. And I was in the same place, but it was like the best way to describe it, like, you know, when you go to see like a high school musical and it's like the set is like a cardboard cutout. It's like a cheap stage play or something. Like that's what it looked like. It was like there was an ocean, but it almost looked like a cardboard cutout. It wasn't moving. The colors were really dull. The same thing with the pier. The only thing that had any type of movement or life was the sand. I kept walking on the sand, and every time I would walk, it would get, my foot would get sucked in like quicksand, and I'd like have to pull it out. And I was so confused. I'm telling her, I'm like, I don't understand. I'm at my beach, but it's so like ugh, like it's so dull, like all the colors were so dull, everything, like nothing's moving. I don't understand where I am. Like I was like kind of upset about it, not like upset, but because you're in like a trance or whatever. But I was like I'm so confused, I don't understand. I'm like looking around trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden there was like an opening, kind of reminded me of, you know, like in an elevator there's like a panel in the ceiling that you can like crawl through, apparently. I mean, I've never done it, but they do it in the movies. So all of a sudden that's what it felt like almost like I realized I was in some kind of confined space, even though I'm at the beach. It got like small, and then there was like this opening and that I crawled out of, and then I was in like just like a white void, and I could kind of see the space that I had come out of. And then she would ask, like, you know, do you have a body? What do you look like? And I kept trying to figure it out, but I was like, I am the white, I am the void. Like I could almost see like a little bit of an outline, but I was the white, right? I was the space. And so what I have realized, like so there, and there was like a lot of other stuff that went on, but I think what's really interesting about that, it took me a while. Like I didn't get the answer right away, but like some of these things, they come to you, you see something in it and it registers. So uh, sometime later, so now out of the session, I'll go back, but out of the session, maybe like a year or so later, I found Neville Goddard and I listened to one of his live lectures where he describes what essentially sounded to me like a lucid dream or maybe even an out of body experience. And he describes, I think he was like in an office where he said everybody sort of looks like a cutout, and what he described, I think he uses the word like a dead world. He calls like the 3D world like a dead world. And in this experience, he could like move people around and he realized they were lifeless. Everything was lifeless. And he was like moving things around. And once I heard, as soon as I heard that, it just clicked. It's like, oh my God, I've seen that. I've been there. Oh my God, that's exactly the way he described it was exactly what I had experienced. It was like that. Like I animated the beach. Like you think you're just seeing the beach and everybody sees it the same and whatever, but it's not. It's really just this like everything around is really sort of like this neutral, lifeless thing. And you're the one that animates it. And I was showing myself, like I got such a download after I saw that, that I was showing myself the beach, the way I see it alive and moving and everything. That's my interpretation. That's I'm giving it life. It is essentially lifeless on its own, and I'm giving it life. And so I saw it first in the way that I'm used to seeing it, or I think I've seen it. And then I was shown like what it really is. And it was so interesting. And then the part where I crawled out into the white void and I could kind of see an outline, but not really showing myself like the world is in me, right? It's like hard to understand. I still work on wrapping my head around it, and I don't know if you could ever understand like in a human form, but I kept having that sense. She kept asking me like, do I have a body? What am I? And I'm like, I am the white void. I don't know how else to describe it. And in that experience, I could really feel it, like that beach or whatever, it was in me. It was part of my creation, part of like the whiteness, you could say, like was my soul or whatever I am outside of this body. And it was an amazing experience, but I didn't quite understand it at the time. There was like a lot happening. So, and then when I saw that Neville thing, like so many things just clicked into place, and other things that I have seen since then. But I thought that was a really interesting part, that I saw like this general concept of creation and how we animate our world, right? The way I view this beach is probably so different. The person sitting next to me is having a different experience, right? And I thought that was just so fascinating, to have. It's one thing to tell you; it's another thing to have the experience yourself. And I thought it was, now that I understand more about it, it's like, of course, that's what I would show myself, being an artist and a creator and a photographer. And because being a photographer is really about understanding the level of focus and perspective that each individual brings to life, right? That my perspective, it animates my world. One other thing that comes to mind, I heard a channeled message, and it was basically, it talked about the same kind of thing, that you are bringing joy to your world. It described a woman who has this garden and she loves this garden. This garden brings her so much joy. And she loves, she stays in this house sort of longer than she wants to, because the garden, it's so wonderful and it's so joyful. And she doesn't go on as many trips as she wants to, because she has to tend to the garden. And the garden brings her so much joy. The garden. And the channel entity or whatever was talking about she thinks her joy comes from the garden, but she is animating the garden. She brings joy to the garden. The garden is not bringing joy to her. Another person could walk in that garden and have an allergy attack and be like, this is, ugh, get away from, I have to get out of here, right? It could be someone else's nightmare, but it's her joy. So I always like, if I'm having a situation where I'm sort of letting the 3D take over, I'll say to myself that I bring joy to the garden. If it's not the garden, it's me. I'm animating the ocean. I'm animating the garden. I understand that we all see the ocean move and things like that, and we all see the flowers bloom, but our interpretation of how it feels, or even if you notice it, right? I have a friend that lives a block from the beach. She doesn't even ever go down to the water. She's just off doing other things. Me, I can't wait every time I come down to my gallery. I'm like, how fast can I go look at the water? Right. So everybody's different. So you bring the life and the joy and the meaning to your 3D world. Your 3D world is essentially like a cardboard cutout, like without any life or animation, and you are deciding. So that is an experience that I had in that QHHT, which is really profound and moving and wonderful. And like I said, I did not get that understanding right away. I was confused for a little while. And then I heard a couple things that boom, 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 clicked the whole thing into place. Um, and then there was a few other parts. And I also want to say at this point, so the part about being nervous, like what I realized, what it essentially is, you're essentially going into a trance or like a deep state of meditation, and then you're having someone who's outside of that state prompt you and ask you questions that you have, they're your questions that you give to that person. So it's really cool. It also made me think differently about my meditations, and that can I ask myself questions? And what I've learned since then too is automatic writing, where essentially I get into a more relaxed state and then I ask myself questions. Um, Sorry, there's something came up here. Okay, no, looks some notification came up, but it looks like everything's all right. I don't want to start over. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. Um, so with the automatic writing, I'm kind of in that same, I'm not quite into a trance, but I get into that stream of consciousness where I can sort of have a back and forth with the part of me that's like chill about that's like knows everything. And it's amazing what can come through. And I'll read it back and be like, yeah, that just human me didn't come up with that. I was way too stressed out to come up with that. And then I found this way to sort of talk to that part of me that has that information and that's relaxed and knows everything is okay. And part of that desire to look for that came from that QHHT session where I realized, oh, I'm just accessing that part of me that just knows. And I really don't need this outside person. Although I think that's helpful. And I'm excited to do it again, knowing now that I could just relax, let myself totally relax and let that person ask me questions. Um, so there was like other parts to it that I think probably wouldn't be that interesting here. But the other part that I think would be interesting, or yeah, that hopefully will be interesting. I don't know. You can tell me. I so at some point I started to have all these sensations in my body. It felt almost like I was getting a massage, or there was like, and sometimes that happens to me in meditation too, where I have like a lot of physical sensations. And even sometimes if I have a pain in my body, it's almost like something comes in and takes it out. And so this started to move through my whole body. And there was images and other answers of things that as it went through my body, it's sort of like, I guess my higher self went through and did some stuff. And so what's funny about this is when the session was over, the practitioner told me, she said, I'm going to give you a recording of the session. I want you to listen to it. maybe like in a week or something, and like just like lie down, listen to it like a meditation. It has its own energy. There's like an energy of the session, and it will keep, answers might come to you while you listen to it again, or etc. So I said, okay, sure. And she's like, keep me posted if anything comes, to get any more information that you want to share. And so a few days go by or whatever, and I did what she said. I, you know, put on my computer, put some headphones in, lie down, relaxed, and and I'm listening to the session. I'm listening to myself talk in the session, and in the part of the session where I start to have body sensation, I can hear myself like, oh, it feels so good. And as I'm listening to the session now, at that part where the body sensation started, all of a sudden, it it felt like my feet were being electrocuted. It was like someone took a live wire and shoved it up against my feet. Like there was all these like electric shocks in my feet, and it was painful. And I was like, ow, 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 ow. I had to stop. I had to put the recording on pause and um just sort of take a few breaths. And I mean, so if you go back and listen to the other Kundalini video, uh, so it's my understanding that this was more Kundalini energy. I've talked to someone who's like Kundalini expert, and because I was like, I really didn't know much about anything Kundalini related, but I had had the experience. If you go back and listen to my other recording where it came down like a lightning bolt came down from my head down, but it went fast, and then I had this like ecstatic experience. But this was yeah, it was painful, and it was coming, it was like in my feet. And then I took some breaths. I thought, okay, this is, well, I know I've had energy move through, just gotta like breathe, allow. So I put the recording back on, lie down, just deep breathing. And it kept coming, coming, coming. It started to move up my legs, and it stopped in my sacral chakra and my lower abdomen. And it felt like, like someone was like squeezing my intestines or something. And it just kind of landed there, and it lasted the whole time the recording lasted. As soon as the recording stopped, everything just stopped, just like that. It was like, okay, hello. That was it. And then the next day, the protect practitioner, she had asked me to like if I had to, let her know if anything happened. So I sat down to write her an email. As soon as I started writing the email, I started to get more electric shocks in my feet. And as soon as I sent the email, stopped. So at some point after that, I did talk to someone who's like a Kundalini expert. I talked to I had a session with like someone that does channeling who has had like the full Kundalini opening, and the entity that comes through her, it's like really into the Kundalini energy. So I had a session and I asked all about both directions. And what came through was, yeah, that's the Kundalini energy. And sometimes it comes in one way, another way, can get stuck, it can veer off, it can take years, blah, blah, blah. So they were like, yeah, it's moving through you in different ways. Um, so it's that's that. And if you go and listen to my first video, if you haven't, that one was way more eventful and like super beautiful and blissful. This, I think, there's more to go. Nothing has happened since then. After that, though, I did for a long time, I would get like little shocks in my feet, but it was nothing like that first initial round was very painful. And then after that, it would just be like little bits, little shocks, but they weren't super painful, just sort of, oh, and that was it. And since then, like there's a lot of energy in my hands and feet and all that. And I'm just doing my best to move with it. I have another story that I haven't put on here where energy got stuck in my hand once. Um, Maybe I'll tell that another time. So that's my QHHT and second round of Kundalini. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have your own QHHT story, love to hear it. Or if you got something out of this video, I'd love to hear it. Um, and yeah, and when I do the next, I'm so curious to see what happens now because I feel like I'm way more prepared. I'm so different than I was just like a couple of years ago. It was all this was kind of newer to me. And now I feel like I'm going to have an easier time of it and hopefully get some good tidbits that I can share. I will keep you posted if there's anything interesting that comes out of that session. And all right, see you in the next video. Okay.